Hi, welcome to Visions of the Past. I'm Nancy D. We're about to learn a little story about Boring, Oregon. Now, I just moved to Boring, and I now have a Boring address, a Boring phone number, and I must just be a boring person. But you're going to be meeting Miles Aubin today, who's been a longtime Boring resident and is also the historian of Boring, Oregon. First, I want to tell you a little bit about William Boring, who was the founder of the town. William Harrison Boring, for whom the community of Boring was named, and his wife Sarah, is with their son Orville in about 1885. Boring came to Oregon from Illinois in 1874 and settled on 160 acres on Kelso Road. This cabin was the first of 3 homes that were built on the original homestead. Sarah Boring, who was born in 1844, died in 1922 at the age of 76. William Boring was born in Maryland in 1841 and died in 1932. I'd like to introduce Miles Aubin, a longtime Boring resident and actually the historian of Boring, Oregon. Miles, could you tell us a bit about these wonderful pictures that you have brought to us?
This is a picture of the first Boring school on the Boring homestead. It also became the center of the community activities, and it was referred to as Borings if you went there. In the first one was built in 1883. In 1903, the second Boring school was built. It's on what is now Ritchie Road. Of course, it's torn down now. And during these first years at this school, for the next 20 years, it held about an average of 100 people, between 80 and 100 people. This is the school when it was torn down in about 1950. It was used up until about 1950. At least part of it was still in use. Boring became a town. This is the picture of the town about 1904. And looking from the south side of the creek, you're looking northwest. And the railroad came through in 1903. And you can see in this picture, it shows, you can see the line of telephone poles or power poles that go north. It also shows Palmer's Mill. Palmer came to Boring in 1902, about the same time that A.W. Root came to Boring and started a grocery store. And the grocery store is kind of concealed by the smoke. The Roots also had a warehouse here, and he accepted from the railroad logging equipment for everybody around in the area. Here is a picture of the station at Boring at about 1904 or 5, and it's looking south, and you can see the church on Ritchie Road, south side there. Across from the station, is kind of a confectionery. They used to call it the peanut dump, and before you got on a train, it was customary to buy some treats to eat while you were riding. And, the railroad came to Boring in 1903, the summer of 1903, and Boring became a town. And of course, you had to have a livery stable. And of course, it had a couple of stores and a confectionery. This is Haley Station, a mile north of Boring, at the end of Haley Road. Now, Haley Road had a bunch of Swedes on it, and they had a Swedish Baptist church, and the Swedish Baptist church was on this road, Haley Road. And the church is still there. It was built in 1911. This picture shows, you can tell by the shadows, that somebody was waiting for the train Sunday evening to go back to Portland. because that was the only time we had a 7:30 train or a train, that late. And you could tell by the shadows where the sun was setting. Here's a Haley station from a distance. The man is my uncle, and this picture was taken on Christmas Day, 1921. He's holding a pure leaf lard pail. We bought lard in five-pound packages in those pails. The large white house in the distance was the original Haley house. In 1921, it was occupied by the Compton family. This is a picture of Telford's store in Boring about 1928. That's a Model T Ford runabout that they delivered with. And this was built about 1910, maybe a little bit before. You can see the same building. It's a tavern on the other side there. There's a little building there, a little part of the building that you can see. That's the tavern there. They just remodeled it. The bottom picture is the picture of the church. It was dedicated in 1907. It was built a little bit before that. One of the leaders in the town lived right next door to it, to this bit where the land was, and he heard that they were going to buy that lot and they were going to build a saloon on it. So he gave the church the lot and they built a church. The church is still there. They use it for different things now, weddings and so forth. Here's the other side of the street in Boring. This is on the east side of the street. As you go through Boring, it's a tavern now. They have lottery and everything like that. It says soft drinks up there. Now it might be, I knew the guy who owned this was Ivan Turner. And Ivan Turner didn't like drinking, so he may not have had any drinking. And this was probably during the wet area. But he got up soft drinks. And there's another article written by somebody that said that Boring was a dry town at that time. Now it later became, when these buildings were burned down, and then they built a building in 1923 and they put a big dance hall in there, and that was Prohibition came in 1920. And in 1923 they were going to uphold the law, and so they had marshals out there arresting people if they saw them drink. That was when Boring was considered a little bit rough. But otherwise, it was dry most of the time. This is the baseball team, 1920. In those days, every little jerkwater town had a town team. Boring had one, Barton, Eagle Creek, Sandy. Gresham didn't have one. That was a conservative town. They had baseball teams, but sometimes they didn't have them because you're supposed to go to church till 1 o'clock, in Gresham. And they had a lot of churches to fill. This is the creamery. It was called Damascus Creamery. Mainly, the reason they got the Damascus name in, and I think they still have that name because this outfit is still going someplace. And for a long time, Damascus ice cream was a common name. And this was at Boring on Haley Road, very, very close to where Ritchie Road comes to the top there, near the golf course. And they would every week they would collect cream all week, and then every week at the end of the week they'd take it into Portland. That was about a 2-day trip, And this was established in 1882, before Boring was anything. They didn't have a post office or anything. I think this building is still there.
Miles, I want to thank you so much for a great interview. You are just a legend. How old are you?
92, going on 93.
Just a young pup, right? Would you take us out with a song? Because I'm in the senior choir with you, and this man is an encyclopedia of the old songs. So I think Miles should take us out with a St. Patty's Day song. Thanks for joining us. Join us next month for Visions of the Past. I'm Nancy D. Bye-bye. Go ahead and sing your song, Miles.
Sure, it's the same old shillelagh me father brought from Ireland, and devil would he would walk with it in his hand. He'll lead the band on Paddy's Day and twirl it round his mitt, and devil a man will laugh at it, or dad will have a fit. Sure, with the same old shillelagh me father could lick a dozen men. As quick as they'd get up, big Lotta, he'd knock 'em down again. And many's the time he used it on me to make me understand. The same old shillelagh me father brought from Ireland.
Thanks, Miles.